Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new. My name is Declan and I make true crime content in a series in which I like to call Weird World. If like me, you love these types of videos, be sure to check out my Weird World playlist right here on my channel. I've covered so many cases, so there's so much for you to enjoy. Also, be sure to head on over to my Weird World Declan store where you can purchase a weirdo merch that you can chill and watch my videos in. Try and follow along with this video as intently as you can because it's one hell of a story. If you take anything away from it, it's that you are never truly alone because sometimes someone's watching. The disappearance of Jessica Heeringa.
911, where's your emergency?
I don't know if it's emergency. I just got to work. I'm at the Exxon gas station on Sternberg Road,
Okay.
and there's nobody here. It is very suspicious why there's nobody here.
Her name is Jessica Heeringa. Investigators believe that she was abducted while finishing a shift at a gas station late on Friday night.
On the 16th of July, 1987, Jessica Lynn Heeringa was born. By the time of her disappearance at age 25, Jessica had a 3-year-old son but wasn't with the biological father anymore. However, she was engaged to a man named Dakota Quayle Dyer. She weighed around 105 pounds, is 5 feet in height, had bright blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. Jessica was a lover of tattoos. She had a sun and a moon on her right calf, sleeping Z's on her left foot, a star on her back, and a musical note and a peace sign on her left ankle. She worked as a clerk at the Exxon Mobil gas station on Sternberg Road in Norton Shores, Michigan. This would be the last known location Jessica would be seen alive. Friday, April 26th, 2013. She was described as being very attentive, and she had to be because the pumps at the gas station would only work if Jessica would push the release button from the inside of the station. She'd been working there long enough to build up a rapport with the customers. Important, but she took it a step further and most of them became friends. The time is currently 10:55 PM and Jessica had just served a customer. The customer had purchased a cigarette lighter. This would be the last transaction that would be recorded on Jessica's till. By 11:10 PM, just 15 minutes after that last transaction, a regular pulled up to the gas station. Craig Harpster attempted to put gas in his car that night. He works just across the street from the station at an industrial park. He had a routine of stopping by the gas station just minutes before it closed. He'd done this every single night. Usually Jessica was on the ball and as soon as he pulled up, she would see him coming, turn on the mains so that it was ready for him getting there. He was never really in a rush, but at that time of night, he just wanted to get home after a long day. However, this time when he pulled up, the switch never come on. It wasn't really ready for him and he thought that was a bit strange. So he waited a few moments. After a few moments went past and nothing happened, he decided that this just wasn't like Jessica, so he decided to go into the gas station just to check on her. He knew that something was wrong and from the second he stepped into the station, his feelings were confirmed. As I said, Jessica was a pro at her job. And he knew this, Craig knew this. He knew for 1,000,000% of a fact that Jessica would never leave the front door of the gas station open while everywhere was unattended. Even if she went to the bathroom, she would lock up, twist a little sign, and be back in a few moments. But Craig was able to walk straight in, so that was the first alarm bell. Let's look at this from another angle though, because maybe she just forgot. So he's walking in and he'll find out soon enough. He could just ask her, can you turn it on? I've been sitting out there for a few moments. Or maybe someone else was on that night. Maybe someone new was hired. Maybe it was someone's first shift and they just weren't as fast as Jessica. Well, again, at least he would know when he went in. As soon as he stepped in, he started calling for Jessica, and even if anyone else was there. Craig takes a walk around the inside of the station. He even checks the walk-in cooler just to see if she had popped in there for a few moments to grab something, but still no sign of her. His thought process at this moment was he just wants to get home, so he's going to go head to another gas station and leave. But as he's leaving, right on the till area is Jessica's handbag. She would never leave without that, so she still had to be in there. It had everything in it. Another really weird thing is that the till is lying slightly open, which, when you start to place all of this together, it's creating a scenario that somehow she hasn't left the station. But everything's unattended, so he panics and he realises that all of this is a bit weird, so he phones the police. By 11:25, 15 minutes after Craig arrived, the police arrived to the gas station. Unknowingly to anyone at this point, there were clues all over the place that would tell the story of how Jessica was taken. Now, after the police had finally caught up with what Craig was saying, they ruled out robbery because there was over $400 in Jessica's bag that was untouched. Not one single penny was missing, not only from her bag, but also the cash register. Nothing was taken. This prompted a search for Jessica almost immediately because this was just all too bizarre. During this investigation, the investigators found parts of a gun and a pool of blood still in the gas station grounds but outside of the building, so like closer to the pumps. By 12:25, police dogs were brought into the search but came up with nothing. So in the space of 15 minutes, Jessica went from serving a customer to never being seen again. But someone had to have seen something, right? Something had to have happened in that time frame. As the police dive a little bit deeper, they realise that there is so many puzzle pieces, so they start putting them together. So this next part is really important. This is when everybody's story starts coming together that will then tell Jessica's story, so really pay attention to this. At 11 PM, just 5 minutes after Jessica's last transaction, Jessica's manager and her husband drive past the gas station. They were heading to another part of town. While doing so, they do what managers do best and have a little sneak peek from the car. They kind of glance over to see what Jessica's up to, but they can't really see her. She accidentally clocks eyes with what she described as a suspicious man. He was behaving a bit weird, and it was enough for her to concentrate more on him than see if she could see Jessica. And the reason that they couldn't take their eyes off this man is because he was standing at the back of his silver minivan's rear hatch, opening it and closing it, opening it and closing it, getting faster and faster and faster before he just drove off. They ended up thinking nothing of it because, yeah, it was a bit weird, but it's not a crime to be weird, otherwise we would all be in jail. He got in his van and left, so it was kind of no big deal. They just continued on their journey. Between 11:02 and 11:05, a silver Chrysler Town & Country was recorded by surveillance cameras by 3 other local businesses just 1 mile down the road, speeding away from the direction of the gas station. What this then tells us is that between the time 10:55 and 11, just 5 minutes apart, this was when Jessica went missing, and this unidentified man, the weird one, was now the prime suspect because he was the only one that was there during this time that Jessica vanished. As time went on, the police gathered up more pieces of information, and another eyewitness came forward. This person wants to remain anonymous, but they said that they had seen a suspicious man floating around the back of the gas station. It was suspicious because why would you be there? Why would you be there if you weren't an employee? This was also crucial information because, again, it was not long before Jessica went missing. This time, the witness could remember what this guy looked like versus the manager. The manager, I think, was just a little bit weirded out. Like, that was a bit strange, but she never really thought it was something that you had to pay attention to. Like, let me remember this entire scene because I'll need it later. With these stories coming together, it starts to paint a picture. This other witness described this guy as being a Caucasian male in his 30s, approximately 6 foot with a medium to heavy build, brown, and kinda sandy blonde hair, possibly streaked with both. They then went on to say that he too was driving a silver minivan, possibly a 2005 Chrysler Town & Country. Now we're going to backtrack just 1 day before Jessica went missing. It's a typical night at the gas station for Jessica. Busy as usual, but she's on top of her game. One of her regulars come in, a female. She decides to remain anonymous, which is actually what a few of the witnesses do in this situation. It's totally understandable. The lady decided to tell the police this story because it It rang alarms in her mind, and that was enough. So she said that on this night, she stopped in at the gas station and Jessica was working all alone. As a woman, this just made her panic. So she was vocal about it. She said to Jessica that she didn't think it was a good idea that she was working all alone. Maybe her boyfriend could accompany her, because you never know who's out there. You never know what could happen to a young girl working alone in a gas station. The lady then went on to say that this random man who was, I guess, shopping in at the back, you know how gas stations have those like snack areas and magazine areas and beer and stuff like that. He was shopping all back there, overheard the two's conversation and said, "It's okay. She has her customers looking out for her too." Now you might be thinking, oh, that's kind of sweet, you know, a guy standing up for a girl, that's really nice. But in that moment, it really didn't come across like that, because this woman describes Jessica, and I quote, "sort of shook her head and started shivering, like a chill went up her spine or something." The lady continued by saying that Jessica wasn't her usual happy self, and that it appeared something was wrong. With this lady being quite freaked out by that, she decided that she was going to leave the station, leave the situation, but park outside, kind of hide away, but keep an eye on Jessica because she was worried about her. The woman was so freaked out by this comment that she decided to stay there until shut-in time. She did not budge or blink. She was keeping an eye on Jessica because it panicked her enough. Of course, the guy left, and so did Jessica, because she showed up for work the next morning, the day she went missing. At this point, this was one of the strongest pieces of information that the police had, because that's 3 separate witnesses that's never met, that are given a detailed description of some strange, suspicious guy floating around the station or being weird, and 2 of them are saying that he disappeared in a silver minivan. It was at this point that he was presumed to be the guy that took her. With a person of interest now in the investigator's mind, they turned the gas station into a crime scene immediately, and the first thing that was sent away for testing was the gun fragments found in the pool of blood. Huge clue that something had happened, but no one could determine whose blood it was or if it was even human. Maybe some other person had stopped by the gas station that had been hunting that night, and that's why there was a pool of blood and some bullets and parts from the gun lying there. Either way, seeing a pool of blood with gun fragments in it is never a good sign, so it was important that they found out everything that they could about it. The investigators also sat down with every eyewitness that they had interviewed and asked them to describe the guy again. What did he look like? What colour of hair? What weight? What height? Everything that they could remember. A police sketch artist sat for hours and hours with them, and this is what they come up with. This was now the face that was released to the public of the man that had taken Jessica. With a town shaken up by the news of their friendly gas clerk snatched, nothing would ever be the same. An entire year had passed and still no sign of Jessica. Current location: Dalton Township, just a 20-minute drive from Norton Shores. Rebecca Sue Bletch, known to her friends and family as just Becky, was born on November 23rd, 1977. By the age of 36, Becky was happily married to a man named Kevin and a mother to 2 beautiful children, Ellie and her stepdaughter Megan. They were her pride and joy. She had a passion for life. She worked at a sanctuary at the shore for 7 years, and for the last 5 years as an assistant occupational therapist. She was a busy mum, because on top of all of that, she also had a passion for coaching the girls' basketball club at the Reiths Puffer Middle School. On this night, Becky decides that she's going to go for a late night jog. She gets on her gear and she says goodbye to her family. She never does make it back though, because just a little bit away from where her family was, Becky's body was found, with 3 gunshots to the head. Gel castings were also found near the body, and this was a major clue, so they were sent into the lab straight away to be examined. Shortly after, the information came back from the lab, and there was a match. They belonged to a Jeffrey Thomas Willis. An entire search of Willis's house was conducted, and so much evidence was found against him for this. So much that he was even denied bond and kept in jail until the trials were starting. On November 2nd, 2017, Jeffrey Willis was found guilty of first-degree murder in connection to the death of Becky. He was sentenced to life without parole 6 weeks later. At the exact same time that Willis was being convicted of the murder of Becky, he was now the new prime suspect in a murder that had baffled the town for years. The unsolved mystery of 15-year-old Fruitport High School student Angela Marie Thornburg. Angela was found partially clothed in the woods by a hunter on October 17, 1996. She was found near the 96th road that ran through Fruitport, just a 13-minute drive from Norton Shores where my story began. She went missing that September and was classed as a runaway. It remains unsolved because there has been apparent sightings of her. One being, she apparently ran out the back door of her boyfriend's house when her mum came over to pick her up. Now you're probably wondering, what is the connection that Willis has to all of this? It was discovered that Willis was actually a graduate from that exact same high school. He graduated in 1988, and by 1998 and 99, he was an elementary school janitor before he was fired. I'm going to have to be really careful with the language that I use at this point because the YouTube are cracking down on everything and I want this video to be seen. He was caught looking at explicit images of children on the computer that the children from this elementary school were meant to be using. This to me is so disturbing because this really shows what kind of evil he is. To Google these pictures in general is horrific, but to Google them while being around the people the same age as these children in the photographs just goes to show how unsafe these children actually were. This was why he was a main suspect, because this little girl could have possibly been kidnapped, and who better than to point the finger at than the creepy janitor that's looking at explicit pictures of children. If that wasn't creepy enough, he gets accused of even more. This story takes place just a 25-minute drive from where my story originally began. Current location, Laketon Township. Willis is also charged with the attempted kidnapping of an unnamed girl on April 16, 2016. The girl was out at a late night party when she became lost after leaving. Willis was driving around and spotted her and crawled up beside her to offer his phone for her to use to call someone. You know, for help. He didn't hand it to her though. Instead, he was adamant that she get inside the car at the passenger side to use it. As much as my stomach sinks at this point, as I'm sure yours is, she reaches for the handle and gets inside the car to use the phone. Once she's inside the car, to her surprise, Willis locks all of the car doors and points a gun in her face. The girl ends up pulling a fast one on Willis. She tricks him. She knows that her life is in danger and if she doesn't do something, she's never going to get out of this. She starts to pretend that she can't breathe and starts hyperventilating. Willis is aware that it's a whole different story bringing someone to where you want them to be and murdering them versus driving around with a dead body in the passenger side of your car. To save himself from possibly getting caught, he decides that he's going to roll down a window to help her breathe. At some point, she squeezes out this window and manages to get away with minor injuries. So you may be wondering why I've told you several Weird World cases all in one video. Well, I've mentioned that they happened relatively close to each other, and for the cases that were solved, these women were targeted by a man that went after young and alone women. He would then kidnap them and then go on to murder them. But one major clue that I haven't told you guys yet, something that links all of these stories together, is that Willis, the creepy janitor that looks at explicit pictures of children and stalks young women, gets around in a Chrysler Town and Country minivan. The same minivan that was seen at Jessica's gas station. The minivan was the main factor here. Once Willis was incarcerated for the murder of Becky, it was searched, and what they found was so disturbing. There were disturbing photos of women bound and gagged, handcuffs, chains, ropes, and syringes, including one with a liquid later identified as a powerful sedative. In there was also a laptop. On the laptop, a blank folder. Inside the blank folder was a subfolder under the name Vix that had been created. Inside this folder were photos of Becky. There were also inappropriate videos and photos of children. In 2011, Willis stayed next to two 14-year-old girls. These girls, one time while they were out playing, knocked at his door and asked if they could use his bathroom. He said yes, and they went in. Little did they know, he had rigged that bathroom up with secret cameras that would exploit anybody who used that bathroom. He now had pictures and videos of their experience in that house. He was charged with trying to say it in a way, the possession and production of child and photo videos distribution. You guys know what I'm saying. Now, back to Jessica's story, the sample had finally come back. The sample of the gun fragments and blood. And the blood matched Willis, which meant he was that creepy guy that everyone had seen snooping around, which means he was the one that took Jessica. This also means that when Jessica's manager was driving past, in the space of the 5 minutes it took for Jessica to vanish, and she seen that weird guy opening and closing the rear hatch door to that van, he was shoving Jessica in the back of it. I don't know how she was when she left, but parts of her must have kept coming out and he must have kept shoving her in. That's why he was seen repeatedly doing that. Jessica was also featured in that Vicks folder, and the most disturbing part, to access this folder, you needed a password, and the password had Jessica's initials in it. J4L27H13. Here's a ton of events that no one can really prove if it's true or not. We know that it doesn't take much, if anything at all, for a serial killer to target someone, but Jessica's boyfriend had made a connection between Willis and herself. He went on to say that Jessica had a side that nobody knew about. Not her family, not her friends. She had kept this side of her life completely secret. Apparently, she was addicted to drugs, and the guy driving the minivan was her dealer. She was hiding the phone in the lining of her car so she could call her drug dealer. I found the phone and found the drugs and flipped out and smashed the phone. Willis was actually proved to be visiting that station a lot. But why? Was he stalking Jessica? Or was he her dealer? On June 21st, 2016, Kevin LaVarn Bloom, Willis's cousin and also a former Michigan Department of Corrections prison guard, was charged with lying to a police officer during the investigation after he told police information about Jessica's disappearance. He really shot himself in the foot at this point because the information that he gave hadn't been made public yet. So how would he know this? The only solution is that he was there. Don't get me wrong though. He tried to play stupid and backtrack and cover up his tracks, but it didn't work. It was too late. He then went on to be charged with even more because he told the investigators a story that is absolutely horrific. He was charged with being a part of Jessica's murder. That's right, murder. He went on to say that he saw Willis with Jessica's body and that he himself then helped Willis bury her after she was executed by them. He said that the day after Jessica went missing, he received a phone call from Willis saying that he had a girl that was ready for a party. He then went on to say that when he showed up at this party, he saw Jessica with major head trauma, face down, hands out, and tied up. She was also completely naked and wasn't moving. He then said to the police that, in a quote, Jeff had been following or watching Miss Heeringa and that he had hit her, which made her go unconscious to get her into the van. Which, if you remember me saying, was probably why he was opening and closing that door so much. It was that she kept falling out, so that just verifies that. He then went on to say that Willis had sex with Jessica and used sex toys to torture her. Finally, he told investigators that they wrapped her up in a sheet and drove out to Sheridan Road near Laketon Road where Willis had hidden shovels. They then buried her in a hole that had previously been dug by Willis, extremely similar to the murder of Angela, who was found near the 96 Laketon Road. Jessica's remains have never been found. As you are watching this video, both monsters that murdered and tortured Jessica, as well as the rest of these women, are currently sitting in prison, and it doesn't look like they're ever going to get out. This story is... it's extremely sad because Jessica seemed like such a sweet girl just by the sounds of it. I think the girl that managed to get away had a really lucky escape. I mean, the fact that she was quite drunk, probably sobered up really fast, but still managed to get away, I would say that's really lucky if you want to use that word. I really hope that you guys found this video interesting. It's a really important case to cover. Stories like this that are really unheard of are kind of my thing. I like telling ones that people don't really know much about because I feel like they deserve their moment. If you did enjoy this video, give it a huge thumbs up, subscribe, it would mean so much to me. And if you haven't already, then leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this video and if you have any other ideas for more cases. This is Weird World and this was the disappearance of Jessica Heeringa, and I'll hopefully see you guys in my next video. Bye.